Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Switch to Life. And in today's video, we are going to be ranking every single Mario game that you can play on the Nintendo Switch. Oh, and for the record, the channel name Switch to Life, yeah, that has been around longer than the Switch 2, so it's not inspired. But with that in mind, this is going to be a pretty fun video. I'm going to be ranking every single Mario game you can play on the Switch and Switch 2 systems. I should point out a couple things. First off, we're doing this today because today is Mario Day, March 10th. And to celebrate, Nintendo not only gave us the final trailer for the Mario Galaxy movie, but they're also giving us a sale on a select few Mario games that I will bring up in this video. So if you're watching after March 15th, the sale no longer applies. Now, with that in mind, I need to be blunt. I actually bought my Nintendo Switch 2 the launch day, and because of that, I have a very good opinion of it, and I love the console way better than my original Switch. It is definitely worth the $450 price tag. Now, I completely understand if you don't feel like upgrading, but if you've never played a Nintendo system before, the Switch 2 is definitely the system that you want to get because it comes with way more games and way better features and also bigger controllers than the original Switch. I also highly recommend that you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, not just so you can play games online with random people, but because you'll get access to an entire library of classic games. Sure, you can get the base deal at $20 a year, but honestly, I highly recommend that you pay the $50 a year, or if you have two people who will play on this system, $80 a year, because if you do, then you'll get access to pretty much everything the system has to offer. Classic games from the NES, SNES, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Virtual Boy, and if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, the GameCube library, which the GameCube is by far Nintendo's best games, at least from what I've heard from nostalgic Nintendo fans. You also get access to some select games like Tetris 99 and F-Zero 99. You'll also get access to select DLCs, including The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 upgrades, which once you get the base game are an additional $10 each. You'll also get the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise DLC, which is normally $25, the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion DLC, which is normally $20, and my personal favorite, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, which is normally an additional $25. So with that in mind, if you just pay $50 to $80 a year, you get access to all of that for free. Now, I'm just telling you guys that you should definitely consider upgrading to the Nintendo Switch 2, and especially consider getting the Switch Online plus expansion pass. I already made a very similar video to this when the Super Mario Bros. Movie came out in 2023, and now with the Mario Galaxy movie, combined with the fact that Nintendo is currently celebrating Mario's 40th anniversary, and the fact that it's Mario Day, there's really no better time to do this ranking video than now. I highly recommend that you pay attention to what's on screen because for every game, I will include some specific details, like how many players there are, what the price of the game is, and my personal favorite, if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, you can actually share a few select games from your console onto another person's console, even if they don't own the game. So thanks to Game Share, you have two consoles, one game copy, and both consoles are playing the same game, meaning that two people can play together anytime, anywhere, mostly through game chat, but also locally. Otherwise, if they don't have Game Share, you actually have to have two copies of the game to play together or just share one console. I will also mention whether or not I actually have played these games because I own almost all of these games. I just haven't found the time to actually play them with my busy schedule, but I will try to be honest about my opinions and my experience with them as possible. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the ranking. In dead last, and it's funny that I say dead last, we have Super Mario Bros. 35, and the reason it's funny is because this is a dead game. The game was released where you could compete with 35 players online in the original Super Mario Bros. And unfortunately, it was only released to celebrate the 35th anniversary back in 2020. And as of March 2021, the servers were shut down. So you can't download the game, and even if you could, you can't play it at all. So because it's a dead game, it's dead last. In 43rd place, we have Tetris 99. You can play the game for free if you have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Otherwise, you can't play it at all. But with that in mind, I think it's dead last because it's not really a Mario game. Yes, it has some Mario characters in the background, but you don't actually get to play as any of them. And of course, the only reason that they're there is because of these special events Nintendo hosts called Maximus Cups. In 42nd place, we have Minecraft. And yes, for the record, Minecraft is its own thing, but they did partner with Nintendo to create a Mario block themed world. And while I think it's very interesting and it honestly looks cool, but that's the problem because aside from looking around, that's all there is to do. Of course, as Minecraft, you can create your own things and just have fun with it, but unfortunately, like I said, it's just a bunch of really cool skins and a cool world to explore. There's not really anything to do. There's no collectibles, there's no story, nothing. Now, you have to pay the $30 to get Minecraft, but after that, you just get access to the Mario skin for free. So check it out if you feel like it, but otherwise, yeah, I don't think it's worth it. In 41st place, we have Mario Strikers Battle League, and this is the only Mario sports game that has a demo, so please download it, because if you do, you basically get the gist of what the game is. So before you waste $60, go check out the demo, see if you like the game, because after you pay that $60, that's all there is to the game. You can play matches against friends locally, occasionally with online if people are actually playing. But honestly, I wish I didn't waste my money getting a used copy of this because there is literally nothing that the demo doesn't have that is in the game. In 40th place, we have Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. And essentially, you can play 14 select NES games, which are already available on Nintendo Switch Online, and see who can complete the challenges in those games the fastest. You can compete with people online, and that's what it recommends you do, but you can also team up with up to 8 players to see who's the best among you. And, well, honestly, I don't really think that this game is actually worth it. If you pay the $20 subscription for Nintendo Switch Online, you get access to all of these NES games and you don't get interrupted by playing stupid challenges. And with that in mind, competing online, there are plenty of other games that you can do that in. Now, I haven't played this game, but I did buy it, but still, that is the reason why it's so low. In 39th place, we have Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. And, well, you basically play a remote-controlled car and race around in your living room after you create a track. And honestly, this game is a very cool concept. However, I should point out that while the game itself is free, to play it, you need to spend $100 to actually get the remote-controlled cars. And you can choose between Mario and Luigi, or you can do like me and pay $200 to get both. I mean, I got mine used on eBay for a cheaper price, but still. With that in mind, I don't recommend playing this game, especially because, well, it still requires you to have hard floors. If you use carpet, your car is pretty much not going anywhere. Though I guess it could be used to create some rough terrain for your car in some racetracks. And one saving grace that this game has is that it does feature multiplayer, and you can race with up to 4 people, but each player has to have their own Switch console and their own remote-controlled Mario or Luigi. So while it is a fun concept and you can create some obstacles in your racetrack, I don't really think that it's worth the price tag. In 38th place, we have our very first Switch 2 exclusive, which means this is a game you can't play on the original Nintendo Switch or any of those consoles. That, of course, is the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. And essentially, you get introduced to all of these cool features on your Nintendo Switch 2 that basically make it so that it proves it's an improvement from the original Nintendo Switch. It features a bunch of tech demos that show you all the features of the Switch 2, but also a bunch of mini games where you use these new features to have some fun. And I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with these mini games. The only reason it's on this list, however, is because of a tech demo called Super Mario Bros. 4K, where you can play the very first level of Super Mario Bros., except every pixel from the NES is shrunk down into the size of a 4K pixel, forcing you to see how much of a difference there is in gaming since the 40 years that Super Mario was released. So in terms of a Mario game, yeah, it's not really worth it. But in terms of a bunch of mini games that show you some cool features of your new console, yeah, I would say it's worth the $10. Now we move into 37th and 36th place because these two games are kind of one and the same. Hello Mario and Hello Yoshi. And essentially, these games are just baby games where you can use the touchscreen on your Nintendo Switch, or if you want, you can actually download these on your iPhone or Android or iPad or whatever, and you can play these baby games by pulling and pinching Mario and Yoshi's faces. They're two separate apps. One is available worldwide, Hello Mario. The other is only available in Japan, Hello Yoshi. With that said, I feel like Hello Yoshi could get a worldwide release, and I actually think it's the better game because, well, we already have a game where we can stretch Mario's face, that being Super Mario 64. In 35th place, this is a pretty controversial take, but we have Mario Party Superstars. And the reason I say that it's the worst game in the Mario Party series on Switch is because it took a few features from the first Mario Party game, Super Mario Party, and got rid of them. There's no custom dice block, you can only play as 10 characters, and while there is 5 boards, which is one more board than in Super Mario Party, those 5 boards are just remakes of the boards featured in the first 3 Mario Party games, all of which are available to play through the Nintendo 64 library. So, while I will admit that the HD graphics are a great enhancement from the original boards, they're literally just remakes, and unfortunately, that's why I rank this so low. That and the fact it got rid of some features from Super Mario Party. In 34th place, we have Super Mario Maker 2. And yes, this is a very controversial take because lots of people, and I mean lots of people, love this game. They adore it. The fact that you can create your own Mario Maker levels is honestly super interesting, and I gotta admit that there's a lot of creative levels that got made. Unfortunately, if you're not creative, then making levels might not be your thing, and well, I'm creative, just not in game design. That being said, Nintendo did create a few levels to make a story mode for you, which is way better than the original Super Mario Maker. And if you pay for a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, you can play other people's level creations. Now, a lot of them are babyish because they're made by children, but some of them are very creative and challenging, especially for core gamers like myself. If you ever find yourself getting bored after playing New Super Mario Bros. Or any of the other Mario 2D platformers, then yeah, feel free to check out Super Mario Maker 2, especially because it is currently on sale for Mario Day. Now we move into 33rd place as well as 32nd, and we have the WarioWare games. Now, I will admit, I did buy these games, but I haven't played either of them. And unfortunately, since I haven't played any of them, I can't really rank them. But if I were to imagine I did, this is probably where I would place them. That being said, I think it's an interesting concept where you can play a bunch of micro games together. Sadly, with WarioWare Get It Together, you're very much limited to using the thumbstick and a button to play these micro games. But in WarioWare Smooth Moves, they actually let you use motion controls in some of the micro games, and there's even a few that utilize the IR motion camera found on the classic Joy-Con, which is good because, well, it's one of the few games that actually use the IR camera. But it's also kind of bad because if you actually want to play those games, you actually need to have a classic Joy-Con. So if you bought a Nintendo Switch 2 and only a Switch 2, you need to get yourself a pair of classic Joy-Con. That being said, I imagine that Smooth Moves has plenty of micro games that don't use the IR camera and you can still use motion controls. So yeah, that will be very interesting. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Get It Together also has a demo, so feel free to check that out. But Smooth Moves, no demo. And now we have another demo available in a crossover game. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Tokyo 2020, which is funny because Tokyo 2020 Olympics didn't happen in 2020, they happened in 2021, and this game was released in 2019, so what gives? But anyway, this is just a collection of some fun mini games that happen to be related to sports, and you can play through pretty much all of them, and there's also a story mode where Mario, Sonic, Bowser, and Eggman end up being sent back in time to the Tokyo Olympics in 1964, and the rest of their friends have to play the 2020 Olympic Games, and they need to bring them back. And I think that's actually very creative for a story mode. That being said, I've heard lots of fans say that this is nowhere near the best Mario and Sonic game, and well, let's just say that there wasn't a Mario and Sonic at the 2024 Olympics, or the Winter 2026 Olympics, so there's that. Feel free to check out the demo for this game if you want to see what it's like. It's also currently on sale, so I highly recommend that you do. Speaking of, we're still on the sports train because in 30th place, we have Mario Golf Super Rush. And, well, I'm gonna say that I played a little bit of this game when I had some friends over, but unfortunately, not enough to get the gist of it. I didn't even turn on the story mode, but from what I've seen of the trailers, you don't even play as a Mario character. You have to play as a Mii. Which, yeah, I don't really know why, but I don't like the idea of that. That being said, a lot of people have said that this is not the best when it comes to Mario Golf. So, unfortunately, I have to rank it here. But in 29th place, we have yet another sports game, Mario Tennis Aces. And I honestly like this game, especially when it comes to its story mode. It was very engaging and I loved playing through it. That being said, as soon as the story mode was over, I kind of put the game down because the gameplay wasn't that interesting. It's literally just tennis with Mario characters. And yes, you do get this cool super move, but unfortunately, I just don't think it was very interesting. So Mario Tennis Aces is more of a skilled game compared to the other game on this list, Mario Tennis Fever, which is our very first official Switch 2 exclusive game. And with that said, there are 3 complaints when it comes to this game. First, the fact that it's a Switch 2 exclusive means that you can't play it on a Nintendo Switch system. Second, the price tag is $70, which is $10 more expensive than a lot of the other Nintendo Switch games, but it's actually common for Switch 2 games. And finally, the story mode is too short. You can beat it in just 3 hours. But that being said, everything else about this game is getting praise. I myself haven't played it because I haven't bought it, but still, people are praising the graphics, the gameplay, and they're even calling this one of the best Mario Tennis games of all time. And that alone automatically puts it in my book as the best Mario sports game on the Nintendo Switch. Our next 2 games are a very weird crossover, Mario plus Rabbids, the first one being Kingdom Battle. And let me just say that I really enjoyed playing through Kingdom Battle, but a lot of people have said that it is not the best Mario RPG, and I kind of have to agree. That being said, the only thing that Kingdom Battle has going for it is that it's the only Mario RPG where you can play with 2 people. Otherwise, it's all single player from here. When the game first came out, it was $60, but now it's dropped to $40 for a base price, and chances are that Ubisoft will put Kingdom Battle on sale for a much lower price. So I recommend holding off on buying it, as well as its $20 DLC where you can play a Donkey Kong adventure. As for the sequel, well, this game probably is better. I will admit, I did buy this game, but unfortunately haven't had time to play it compared to the rest of the RPGs of the series. That being said, I really think that this game is definitely worth it, especially because it is currently on sale for a whopping 90% off. That's just $9 to get access to the full game and the DLC. So please go check out the demo right now, play it for free, and then spend the $9 to just have this game in your system. Now, as to why it's better than the original Kingdom Battle, I think that Sparks of Hope just did everything that a Kingdom Battle did and made it better. Not only because, well, Bowser is a playable character now, which is very good for me, but also because it has a way better story, at least from what I've heard, and of course, the gameplay is actually a lot more intuitive. In 25th place, we have another game that is currently on sale, that of course being Super Mario RPG. And let me just say that this is actually celebrating its 30th anniversary the day I'm recording this video. So that's pretty cool. But with that said, this version is a remake of the original game. And I will admit the graphics are definitely really good. The problem is that the gameplay can be a little repetitive, and while the story is interesting, it's also not that great when it comes to the cutscene animation. But like I said, the base game is 30 years old, and this is a remake that's supposed to be a copy. So with that in mind, I'll cut it some slack. Moving on, we have the 6th and currently latest game in the Paper Mario series, Paper Mario: The Origami King. And I did 100% this game, and I had a lot of fun, especially trying to find all of the hidden toads. But with that said, I have heard that this is not the best when it comes to Paper Mario, and so even though I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the story, especially all of the twists and turns. The allies weren't very interesting, and apparently the battle sequences wasn't that great, which I found to be pretty weird. But with that said, I haven't played the other Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, which is 23rd place just because apparently due to nostalgia, people think that it's the better game. And I haven't played it myself, I just haven't found the time. But I'm going to trust people's opinions because they say that The Thousand Year Door is the holy grail of Mario RPGs. With that said, again, I haven't played it myself, so I can't be a voucher for that. What I can be a voucher for is Mario and Luigi Brothership, except I also can't because even though I started this game, it's actually the game that I am currently playing, and from what I've seen so far, I am in love with this game. It's actually very interesting, and I love the gameplay choices. I also just think that all of the cutscenes with Mario and Luigi are super funny, and even though they're not being played by Charles Martinet, the original voice of Mario, it's still really enjoyable to watch. With that said, it's also my first attempt in the Mario and Luigi series, and well, I gotta say, I loved it, but lots of other people didn't. They're still comparing it to the older games, but with that in mind, those older games were developed by a completely different studio that ended up going bankrupt. So this is a brand new development studio, and I gotta say, for their first attempt at remaking some magic, they did an amazing job. Granted, again, I can't really vouch for original fans, but still. That being said, everybody is happy that we finally have a Mario and Luigi game on Switch, and I highly recommend that you buy this one so that we can actually get a good Mario and Luigi game. And with that, we move out of the RPGs and into 21st place with Yoshi's Crafted World. And let me just say, this is a great game for a baby's first 2D platformer because it's extremely easy. And for some reason, the music is annoying to Nintendo fans, especially when compared to Yoshi's Crafted World from the Wii U. I'm actually sad we don't have that game on Switch yet. That being said, I do think the criticism for Yoshi's Crafted World is warranted because even though it does have some creative level designs, especially because it has to look like it's made out of crafts, I do think that because of all the backtracking where you need to find certain collectibles and just play the level over and over and over and over again, yeah, it gets annoying really fast. Make sure that you play the demo if you want to see what the gameplay is like, but I still think that the core gameplay is very interesting. And with that, we have reached the top 20, and in 20th place, we have Super Mario Party. This was the very first Mario Party game to come to the Nintendo Switch, and it is the one that I have played the most of. And with that said, I love everything about it. I mean, yes, I have heard some criticisms that the boards in this aren't very creative. They're literally just go around, that's it. But it does feature a lot of characters, and one thing that's not in our next game, custom dice blocks, which is very interesting. And it really makes it so that you have to choose which character you play as. Me, I'm Bowser. But yeah, in 19th place, we have the third Mario Party game on Switch, Super Mario Party Jamboree. And let me just say that this is one of, if not the best Mario parties, at least from a Nintendo fan consensus. I will admit that for the price of $60, getting 7 boards instead of 4 is really good, especially because 2 of them are remakes from the first 3 games. But the other 5 are completely original and very interesting. And the fact that you get to play as a ton of characters, more than both of the other games I already mentioned, is very interesting. And there's also plenty of side modes where you can do some really cool gimmicky stuff with the Switch and the Switch 2 if you get the Switch 2 upgrade pack. I honestly think that this is the best Mario Party game of all time. The only thing that I would say that Super Mario Party does better is the custom dice block feature. That is the only thing that this game is missing out on. Now, the base game is $60, unless of course you do the sale right now. But if you want to get the Switch 2 upgrade pack and spend the additional $20, well, I just say don't. Sure, it does have an interesting mode with the Bowser Live where you have to use the microphone and the camera, which is an additional $50 if you want to get a camera. And if you also get the Jamboree TV, you'll also have access to the Carnival Coaster thing, where you can use the mouse mode features exclusive to the Switch 2 in a bunch of cool mini games. But unfortunately, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to offer in Jamboree TV. So with that in mind, I think it's very interesting, but unfortunately not worth the $20. And trust me, I actually did play all of the Jamboree TV side mode stuff, and I'm still trying to beat the base game. Oh, and if you have the Switch 2 edition, you can actually share the game through GameShare, but unfortunately it's very limited. You can only play on one board with 30 separate mini games, and you can only game share locally, which means that you either have to play together in the same household, or you can't really game share at all. By that point, I just recommend you either play on the TV or you put it in tabletop mode and get access to the full game. In 18th place, we have another 2D platformer, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And this is actually a remake of a 1994 game on the Game Boy Advance, which you can play through the Nintendo Classics library. But as for this HD remake, I really enjoyed playing through it, and the fact that you can play with 2 players, one as Mario, one as Toad, is very interesting. And despite being a remake of a 1994 game, it actually has twice the levels, some of which get pretty challenging later on. So please feel free to give this game a try by downloading the demo, and if you enjoy what you play, be sure to get this game while it's on sale. Unfortunately, there's no game share, but there is a demo, so feel free to check out that demo. That being said, I will admit that the gameplay is very slow and very time consuming, and it might seem a little easy, but honestly, it gets pretty challenging later. In fact, there are literally challenge levels where you have to find some way to solve the puzzles in this 2D platformer, and I just think it was very cool. Moving on, we now have our very first 3D platformer on this list, and honestly, it's not much of a platformer. It's kind of actually pretty easy, that being Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This is actually inspired by a few levels featured in a game that we will talk about later, but with that said, those levels went on to create this amazing game, and I really enjoyed playing through it. I still haven't 100%ed the DLC, which is only an extra $6 after you you get the $40 base game, but still, this is really good and I highly recommend that you check out the demo. Oh, and one of the great things about this, you can actually play with 2 players. One as Captain Toad, the other as Captain Toadette. And the best part, game share is an option. That's right. If you have 1 copy of this game, you can share it with a friend locally and online, which is really cool. And now we have arguably the most expensive game on this list. In 16th place, we have Mario Kart World. Yes, this is the launch title for the Nintendo Switch 2, and honestly, it's $80 if you want to get it physically, like I did, though I got mine used on eBay for $60. And I would argue that while this game does have very interesting mechanics and some very fun gameplay, the problem is its lack of content. See, Mario Kart 8, when it was first released, had 48 tracks, and with the DLC, that went up to 96. This only has 30 tracks in it, which is very unfortunate, but you get the free roam mode where you also have some straightaway intermissions where nothing really happens, and it's kind of boring. There's the battle mode, and, well, the less said, the better. There's the Grand Prix mode, but you unfortunately are limited to just playing 1 lap on each track, as well as the intermission to get to the track, which is very unfortunate. As for the free roam, well, as soon as you collect all of the collectibles, which can take a while because Nintendo doesn't give you any sort of tracking method whatsoever. But as soon as you get all the collectibles, the free roam is extremely boring. Honestly, the only things this game has compared to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that make it better is the fun and unique racing mechanics and, of course, Road Rally. That being said, I think with a few updates, Mario Kart World can actually rise and become one of the greatest games on the Switch too. Unfortunately, I still think that 8 Deluxe is the better Mario Kart, which is why this game is ranked so low, especially because of its super high price tag. Oh, and the weird thing is, it doesn't come with game share despite literally asking for it. It's Mario Kart World. You play this with your friends. Why can't you play with this locally or online? In 15th place, we have a game that's not even out yet, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which will be released exclusively on the Nintendo Switch 2 on May 21st, 2026. Now, Nintendo actually just barely gave us the release date on Mario Day, so kinda happy that my video got delayed. But I'm also not excited for this game because it's kind of looking like it's baby's first 2D platformer again. And unlike Crafted World, I don't really see a lot of ways that you can take damage in this. All you're really doing is looking around, interacting with the levels, and learning about the creatures' inhabitants. At least Bowser Jr. is in the game, but I'm not sure if he's gonna be the enemy or a weird ally that Yoshi will partner up with. Honestly though, considering my hype for the game, this is as high as I think the game will place. So from now on, all that can happen is it going lower in the rankings. Then in 14th place, we have another simple 2D platformer, but I think it's actually very creative in its gameplay. That, of course, being Princess Peach Showtime. And I highly recommend that you check out the demo to see what I'm talking about. But you play as Princess Peach, and she goes through a bunch of plays, and in every play, she puts on a new costume that gives her a new ability, and you play through all of these really cool levels, which are basically plays, with Princess Peach as our protagonist and our companion Stella to guide her with all of her costume transformations. She gets to play through each level story by story, collecting star gems along the way, and of course, after she reaches the final boss, free the theater from its corruption. Now, I will admit that the gameplay is very easy, and it's actually this low because it only has 1 player, but honestly, I loved playing through this game, and I can't wait to do another playthrough when I have another Mario game marathon. In 13th place, we have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And despite being a remake of a $40 game from the 3DS, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, I don't really think the HD remake warrants its $60 price tag, and lots of other people don't either. But as for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, the gameplay is actually the worst of the Luigi's Mansion series, but still really good. And granted, the only reason I say it's the worst is because there's 3 games in the series as a whole. And while there isn't a demo for either of these games, you can check out the first Luigi's Mansion if you have a Nintendo Switch 2 through the GameCube Classic Library. And if you really enjoy your gameplay of the original Luigi's Mansion, be sure to purchase Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and finally move on to Luigi's Mansion 3, which takes our 12th place in our Mario game ranking. And what's really interesting about Luigi's Mansion 3 is not only does it have the best gameplay, the best graphics, it's also the biggest, and of course, the fact that you can play as 2 players, one as Luigi and the other as Gooigi. Of course, if you're playing single player, Gooigi also gives Luigi some new abilities to help him navigate the new levels. And of course, if you are really into it, you can also play the Scare Scraper, where up to 8 players can play a bunch of multiplayer mini games and have some real fun battling ghosts. Now, the base game of Luigi's Mansion 3 is $60, but you can also get even more skyscraper fun with the multiplayer pack as $10 DLC. And I highly recommend that you check it out now because it is on sale. So please enjoy your stay at Luigi's Haunted Mansion. Now, our next game is actually very interesting. To celebrate Mario's 35th anniversary, Nintendo combined Mario's first 3 3D adventures into one game for $60. Unfortunately, this game is no longer available to buy digitally, and while you can still buy some physical copies off of eBay, they're no longer $60. You're expecting to pay somewhere in the $80 to $90 range if you're lucky. Thankfully, you don't need to buy this compilation to actually play these games. Aside from some HD graphics, you'll get the same experience playing them through the Nintendo Classic service. You can play Super Mario 64 through the Nintendo 64 Classic Library, and if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, eventually Nintendo is going to release Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube library at some point in 2026. Probably in summer to go with the summer vibes of Sunshine. And finally, as for Super Mario Galaxy, well, Nintendo actually re-released that game, but we'll talk more about that later. As for Super Mario Sunshine and 64, I thought these 2 games were very interesting, and I loved playing through them twice, actually. I had so much fun with them. Sadly, the only thing that I hate about these games is the fact that every time you get a collectible, it kicks you out of the level. So you do need to re-enter the level, replay it, and go back in, but it's still very enjoyable to collect all 120 stars in both games. Now, if 3D All-Stars was still available to purchase, I would put it higher on the list, but because you can play the first 2 games through the Nintendo Switch library and the 3rd game got re-released in a separate edition, yeah, I can't really put this higher. But now we've officially reached the top 10, and with it, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which is a remake and a port, I guess, of the Wii U games New Super Mario Bros. U, as well as the side mode New Super Luigi U. Now, in both games, you can play up to 4 people together, but unfortunately in New Super Luigi U, you can't play as Mario because he's missing. Luigi has to be the protagonist. But at least you can play as Luigi in the Mario version of the game, which is very good. Now, the reason this might be so high is because of a personal reason. I had so much fun playing New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii that I really wanted to get myself a Wii U just so I could play this game. Then I found out that it was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and I was just like, oh, great, I'm hopping on board the Switch and not the Wii U. To this day, I still regret not buying a Wii U, but I did have a lot of fun with this game. especially when I played with my family. That was really fun. Honestly though, here's to hoping that Nintendo eventually ports the first 3 new Super Mario Bros. Games from the DS, Wii, and 3DS as some kind of All-Stars compilation for the 45th anniversary. That would be a dream come true for me. However, it is not the best 2D platformer on this list, as I need to mention Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. And if you've never played a Donkey Kong Country game, I feel very sad for you because, well, you're either very untalented or you just haven't experienced the pleasure of hardcore 2D gaming. Donkey Kong is very interesting with the way that the levels are designed, and in Donkey Kong Country and Tropical Freeze, you can play as Donkey Kong and have a friend along for the ride as DK's little buddy, Diddy Kong. Oh, and after an update, you did get access to Dixie Kong, but by that point, I already 100%ed the game, so there wasn't really any reason to play as her anymore. And after the update, you can actually share this game on your Nintendo Switch 2 with another player so that you can play locally. Unfortunately, you can't game share over game chat, which is very unfortunate. And like I said, why bother with game sharing when you can just play in tabletop mode or TV mode? But please feel free to download the demo for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and try out this game for yourself, especially because it's on sale, so please check it out. In 8th place, we have Mario's latest adventure, that of course being Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, the game itself is 3 years old, but it is getting a Switch 2 update as Meet Up in Bellabelle Park later this month. Now, I'll be honest, I have actually 100%ed the base game, but unfortunately, since it's not out yet, I haven't played the Switch 2 updates. And because of that, I can't give an honest opinion on those. But I will tell you that I pre-ordered my copy, and I cannot wait to get started in all of the multiplayer mayhem that will be going on. And of course, there's also some side modes that will feature the Koopalings, and the fact that with the Switch 2 upgrade, you can actually share the game both online and locally, and up to 4 players can play together, which is really cool. But as for the base game, well, me and my sisters had a little bit of fun with this, especially when they found out that this was going to be Super Mario Bros. On drugs, because thanks to the Wonder Flower effect, random chaotic stuff happens throughout the levels, and it just makes the game that much more interesting. In 7th place, we have one of the latest games in the series, Super Mario Galaxy 1+2. That's right. Both of these games have been remastered from the ground up and put onto the Nintendo Switch. And from what I've seen, the gameplay is 1-to-1 with the original game. Now, remember how I said that Super Mario 3D All-Stars was a compilation featuring the first 3 games of the 3D Mario series? Well, one big critique was that it never had Super Mario Galaxy 2. This is Nintendo's solution. Re-release Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 at the same time, and unlike 3D All-Stars, which was a limited time deal, they're charging $70 so that you can get this game, which will be available permanently. And of course, if you don't want to get Mario Galaxy 1 again, they did offer the choice of getting Galaxy 1 or 2 for $40 each. So yeah, if you don't already have 3D All-Stars, just do yourself a favor and spend the $70. That's actually what I did, because I like to get all of my games physically. So even though it cost me an extra $30, I ended up buying Galaxy 1 again, and eventually I plan to play the remastered version of Galaxy 1, but I already had so much fun with Galaxy 2. Now, my biggest critique is that, unfortunately, thanks to the linear gameplay design, there's not really a lot of chances for exploration, and, well, the collectathon is relatively linear. So there's that. But in terms of the gameplay and the level design, it is very interesting, especially with the gravity mechanic of Mario being out in space and exploring the galaxy. And of course, these 2 games are the inspiration for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I mean, they're not going to be the only source material, but the basic plot is going to be these 2 games. Honestly, the only critique I can really give this is the fact that in terms of multiplayer, while it does offer multiplayer support, the second player is literally just a point and click thing that shoots star bits. You don't actually play the game, you assist the person who is playing the game, which is very, very sad. And honestly, you don't really do anything. Even with the mouse mode support of the Switch 2, it's very boring. So I don't recommend playing this with two players. Speaking of two-player games, in sixth place, we have another Donkey Kong Country game. That, of course, being the latest game in the series, Tropical Freeze. And with that in mind, I actually like this game way better. Sure, it has less levels than Donkey Kong HD Returns, and of course, it's not supported through GameShare, but it has better level designs, better music, and of course, you get more characters. Not only can you play as Donkey Kong or Funky Kong in terms of player 1, but player 2 can also be Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, or Cranky Kong, and all three of these characters have their own unique ways of going through the levels with their own special abilities, and I really enjoy that. In my opinion, Tropical Freeze is the more superior game of the Donkey Kong Country games. Returns HD only has three things going for it. First, it has game share locally, not online, just locally, which is unfortunate, but still. It also has a demo where after you play a bit, you get a feel for what both Returns and Tropical Freeze are going to play like. And as for levels, well, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD has more levels, but Tropical Freeze has more quality levels. I'm not saying that Country Returns is bad, but Tropical Freeze is superior. And finally, we move to the top 5, and this is the game that actually convinced me to get a Nintendo Switch. When I was going through school, people were bringing their Switches and playing Super Smash Bros. In the cafeteria, and I just really wanted to join in the fun, especially when I found out how many characters there were in Smash Bros. So I finally got myself the game, and I got myself all of the DLC. And let me just say that the DLC is actually more expensive than the game itself. Basically, Nintendo is charging you $6 to get access to each individual new character that you can play as, and they also offer a deal where you can buy a Fighter's Pass where it's less money. In total, you're still spending $60 to get access to 12 characters. And of course, you also have the additional $40 of all the Mii costumes. And yeah, I honestly don't know what Nintendo was thinking. But anyway, as for the Super Smash Bros. Game itself, this is a global phenomenon. Everybody was playing it for the longest time possible. And while I will admit its story mode, World of Light, is incredibly simple, especially when compared to Super Smash Bros. Brawl and its Subspace Emissary story mode, I actually really enjoyed playing through it. Along with this, the game features over 80 playable characters, a lot of whom are from various different games. And you're like, I want to know what this character is from and what their game is like. Well, this is the game that does that. And essentially, this is how I became a Nintendo fan. And it is not just Nintendo. There are plenty of third-party characters in this as well. And I would love to play some of those games, but I'm still focused on the first-party Nintendo stuff because I got a lot of games in my library I gotta go through. But with that said, Super Smash Bros. Is the cornerstone of my Switch 2 library. And because of that, that is why this game is ranked so high up. That and the fact it's fun to beat up my family. In fourth place, we have one of the first games that came to the Nintendo Switch, and by far one of the most popular. That is Super Mario Odyssey. This game is extremely good, and a lot of people have called it the single greatest Mario game of all time. Not me personally, it's only the top 4, but still. With that in mind, the reason it's so low is because it's more of a single-player game. Yes, there is a 2-player assist mode where the second person plays Mario's hat, but yeah, I don't know anyone who actually wants to be Mario's hat. But hey, if it is your thing, there is the game share option where you can share over local or game chat and play the game together. And I honestly did this with my dad and it was very fun. But as for the gameplay itself and the level design, it is peak Mario. And of course, the character movement is just so fluid and I absolutely love it. I can honestly see why this is some people's favorite Mario game. Our bronze medal of Mario is actually going to the multiplayer game of the Nintendo Switch, and that is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, the base game is $60, and if you spend an additional $25, you get access to the Booster Course Pass, or you can get that Booster Course Pass for free with the Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pass subscription. That being said, you're essentially paying $85 for 96 unique tracks, some good, some bad, most of them mediocre, but still you get a lot of quantity, and only for $5 more than Mario Kart World, which only gives you 30 tracks to work with, which is very good. Also, while we don't really have a free play mode or a road rally mode, the battle mode for this game is extremely good and very fun, and it's a lot better than Mario Kart Worlds. Combine it with the fact that unlike Mario Kart World, you can actually play this on both versions of the console. Yeah, I think that this is by far the superior Mario Kart. That being said, it is only the third best Mario game in total. Now, if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, you can play this Switch 2 exclusive. That, of course, being Donkey Kong Bonanza. And I just gotta say, I love this game. It's basically Super Mario Odyssey, but with Donkey Kong. And, well, it has a way better story mode, way better gameplay, better graphics. And the fact that it comes with Game Share means that you can play in two-player mode. Granted, that two-player mode is a co-op assist mode, where the second player is just Pauline riding on Donkey Kong's back and shouting out commands that helps destroy enemies, which is actually pretty useful. And it's also something that the single player can't do on their own, which is very interesting. There's also the DK Artist, where you can use the Switch 2's mouse features to kind of sculpt some art, which is very interesting. And of course, after you beat this $70 game, you can pay an additional $20 to get access to DK Island and the Emerald Rush mode, where not only do you get access to the new island, but you also unlock the speed challenge mode, where you have to collect as much emerald as possible and accumulate points to eventually play Emerald Rush in other locations. And essentially, while it seems like you can only play it in 5, as soon as you collect 2,000 emerald, you unlock Emerald Rush in pretty much every single major terrain, which is really good. And the fact that there's just so much to do in the Emerald Rush definitely makes it worth the $20. I still haven't 100%ed Emerald Rush because there's so many statues to collect. That being said, even if you choose not to get the Emerald Rush DLC, you can still play the base game and have a super amazing time. And if you don't believe me, just try out the demo for yourself. That is, if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, because this is a Switch 2 exclusive. Thankfully, despite that, you can game share this with a classic Switch. You just can't actually play it on a Switch on your own. And the last game on our list happens to be on sale, so I highly recommend that you get it while this sale is happening. But the gold medal of Mario games is going to Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. And in my opinion, this game is the best of both worlds. Not only do you get a fun multiplayer game with 3D World, where you can play together and have loads of fun trying to beat each other and accumulate as much points as possible, or work together to get to the end of the level while getting all of the collectibles. Yeah, this is very fun. But of course, there's also the side mode, Bowser's Fury. And honestly, you can beat this game of Bowser's Fury, like fully 100% it, in a matter of 3 hours, if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's like 5 hours. But despite its short length, Bowser's Fury is by far, in my opinion, the best Mario game on the Nintendo Switch system. Combined with the fact that in order to play it, you have to get 3D World, which is a fun multiplayer experience. Yeah, this is really good. Oh, and also, if you do love multiplayer, the second player can actually join in as Bowser Jr. in Bowser's Fury and assist Mario in freeing Bowser of his corruption, which is really good. Oh, and this game does support Game Share, both locally and online, in both versions of the game. So yeah, honestly, I think that Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is the best game on the Switch because it gives you the best of both worlds. Fun multiplayer action and a single-player adventure that is really good, even if it is really short, but still quality over quantity. And that is my Mario Day 2026 Mario game ranking. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it got pretty long, but we had a lot to talk about. So please feel free to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section of what your favorite Mario games are. Also, be sure to keep an eye out for when I post my review and breakdown of the Super Mario Galaxy movie coming to theaters April 1st. But with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, I'm actually considering making a second channel where I will play these video games live. However, I actually want your guys' opinion. Should I start the second channel as it might interfere with my first channel, or should I leave it so I only have to worry about one YouTube channel? But either way, I would love to hear all of your opinions, and above all else, make sure that you're staying safe out there, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye bye.
Happy Mario Day!